Welcome, dear listener, to Sleepy Historian, a quiet corner where time slows and history drifts gently into your mind. Tonight, we will embark on a calming journey into the kitchens of Tudor England, a world of simmering pots, fragrant spices, and the steady rhythm of daily life. If you've ever found comfort in soft storytelling or enjoyed falling asleep to boring history, then you are in exactly the right place. Here, we offer bedtime relaxation and soft storytelling, soft-spoken history documentaries, and a calm invitation to relaxing history to fall asleep to. Imagine yourself stepping through the wooden doors of a bustling Tudor manor. The air is thick with the scent of baked bread, roasted meats, and the faint, sweet aroma of preserved fruits. The sounds are gentle and repetitive. The scraping of knives, the shuffle of feet along stone floors, the low murmur of servants moving with quiet purpose. Each motion, each task, is part of the rhythm of life, a rhythm that is surprisingly comforting when observed from a distance. As we wander through this world together, we will uncover the lives of those who stirred the pots, tended the fires, and moved silently between the tables, all while remaining mindful of the serene and soothing pace that brings rest to the weary mind. Throughout our journey tonight, we will gently explore 4 different perspectives of Tudor kitchens: the daily life of servants, the stories of influential figures who oversaw these spaces, the mysteries and curiosities hidden in recipes, utensils, and customs, and finally, the contrast between the humble and the elite. Each section will drift seamlessly into the next, allowing you to lose yourself in the details without ever feeling rushed or startled. If this kind of soft, calming exploration helps you find peace, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it genuinely brings you comfort. I'd love to know in the comments where you're listening from, and even what time it is as you settle into the evening. There's a quiet joy in imagining others, scattered across the world, simultaneously drifting into sleep as we explore these ordinary yet fascinating corners of history. So dim the lights, let the gentle echoes of the past surround you, and let us begin our journey into the heart of the Tudor kitchen. Imagine, if you will, the early morning light spilling gently into a Tudor manor kitchen, the first rays softening the rough-hewn beams and flagstone floors. The air is cool and faintly damp, carrying the lingering scent of last night's fires and the sweet remnants of dried herbs hung to cure. You might notice the low hum of activity already stirring within this space, a world both ordinary and yet quietly fascinating. Here, the rhythm of daily life is subtle, almost hypnotic, the movement of people and objects creating a steady cadence that invites calm observation. In this early hour, servants begin their carefully choreographed routines. One carries a basket of firewood, its weight shifting slightly with each step along the worn stone floor, the corners of the hearth already glowing faintly with embers kept from the night before. Another sweeps the floor in long, deliberate strokes, the brush bristles whispering over the stone, collecting dust and stray flour alike. These motions are not hurried. Each task is approached with a quiet sense of necessity and precision. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of this space, watching the patterns of movement, noticing how each servant knows their place, their role, and the exact sequence of chores that will guide the day from dawn until dusk. The preparation of food dominates the morning. Large cauldrons simmer over open fires, sending spirals of steam curling toward the rafters. The aroma of oats and milk, mixed with hints of clove, nutmeg, and parsley, drifts lazily through the room. You may observe a young apprentice carefully chopping onions, the tears in his eyes softened by the gentle rhythm of his motion, while nearby, a more experienced cook stirs a rich pottage with slow, patient rotations of a wooden spoon. The movements are repeated, almost meditative, and though the work is essential, it carries with it a certain calmness, a reassurance that the world is orderly, predictable, and steady. Servants carry baskets of fresh vegetables from the courtyard garden, their hands brushing against the rough surfaces of leeks and cabbages, the slight dampness of early morning dew still clinging to the leaves. There is a quiet poetry in their actions. A turn of a cabbage, a careful placement of herbs, a nod of acknowledgement between colleagues who understand that these small, careful acts together sustain the household. Life in the kitchen is in many ways a constant repetition, yet within that repetition lies a soothing cadence, a rhythm that is easy to follow, easy to rest alongside, as one might sink into a familiar, comforting pattern before sleep. Beyond the preparation of meals, cleaning and maintenance form another layer of the day. Pots are scrubbed and dried, floors swept again, and ashes carefully removed from the hearth. Each sound, each motion is deliberate, measured, and predictable. Even the harsh realities of Tudor life, spilled soup, the occasional broken dish, the strenuous labor of moving heavy sacks of flour or grain, are softened by the ritualized nature of the tasks. These small hardships are acknowledged without alarm, part of the natural ebb and flow of the day, creating a calm environment in which to observe and reflect. As the morning deepens, the kitchen's activity grows steadily, yet always within the bounds of rhythm and order. Imagine the scent of fresh bread, just removed from the oven, mingling with the tang of cured meats hanging along the beams. Notice the interplay of shadow and light as the sun climbs, casting soft patterns across the stone floor and wooden tables. The kitchen, though functional and utilitarian, is not harsh or chaotic. Rather, it is a world governed by patterns, familiarity, and the quiet diligence of its inhabitants. In this first part of our exploration, you are invited simply to watch, to notice, and to breathe with the steady heartbeat of the Tudor kitchen. Observe how the kitchen staff communicates in subtle gestures and glances, how they move together almost like dancers in a slow, careful ballet, and how the simplest acts, stirring, chopping, carrying, scrubbing, create a comforting cadence that is as reassuring as the tick of a quiet clock. Imagine yourself not as a participant, but as a gentle observer, drifting along with emotions, finding serenity in the repetition, and allowing your mind to relax into the patterns of daily life as it once unfolded centuries ago. The life of a Tudor kitchen in the early hours is a gentle immersion into order, routine, and sensory detail. By paying attention to the soft sounds of scraping, chopping, and stirring, and by imagining the faint scents of herbs, bread, and roasting meats, you can allow yourself to settle into a calm state of mind. Here, in the quiet diligence of these unseen workers, there is a comfort, a reminder that even in centuries past, life moved with rhythm, and in observing that rhythm, we can find our own small moments of rest and reflection. As the morning gives way to midday, the Tudor kitchen grows warmer, filled with the gentle hum of ongoing tasks. The fires beneath the cauldrons glow steadily, casting a soft, amber light across the stone walls and timber beams. Steam rises in slow, curling wisps, carrying the faint sweetness of baking bread and the earthy aroma of root vegetables. The rhythm of the kitchen continues uninterrupted, a calm yet persistent pulse that guides every movement and action. Imagine standing quietly in a corner, absorbing the environment, the smells, the textures, and the steady cadence of a day unfolding in gentle repetition. By now, the younger apprentices have settled into their routines, learning the ways of the kitchen not through instruction alone, but through careful observation. They watch the more experienced cooks as they measure flour, knead dough, and stir pottages with a patience that borders on meditative. Each motion is deliberate, a quiet choreography of hands, arms, and bodies synchronized with the constant warmth of the hearth. You may notice how the apprentices imitate these movements, copying each step in silence, their minds absorbing the subtleties of labor and attention. This is a world where learning is gentle, almost hypnotic, and even small mistakes, overcooked porridge, slightly uneven bread, are absorbed into the day without urgency or loud reprimand. Between the cooking and cleaning, there is the preparation of elaborate meals for the household. Imagine yourself observing the careful arrangement of vegetables, the precise carving of meats, and the slow simmering of sauces infused with herbs and spices for faraway lands. Each ingredient carries its own story. Pepper from the east, cinnamon from distant ports, and apples and pears grown in the manor's own orchard. The kitchen is both a space of work and a repository of subtle, sensory narratives, each aroma and texture hinting at the broader world beyond the stone walls. Even the simplest preparation, stirring a pot or washing a bundle of herbs, becomes a moment of immersive attention, inviting you to notice the elegance hidden in routine. Servants communicate in understated ways, often without words. A nod, a tilt of the head, a brief glance toward a simmering cauldron conveys instructions and signals readiness. There is a quiet trust here, a sense that each person's contribution is essential to maintaining the seamless flow of the kitchen's activity. The air, though filled with sounds, is never chaotic. It is punctuated by the soft clatter of bowls, the muted scrape of knives against wooden boards, and the low murmur of careful conversation. Each sound blends into a comforting, ambient rhythm, a lullaby of human activity that invites the mind to wander while staying rooted in the gentle familiarity of daily life. The midday meal begins to take shape. Apprentices carry trays of ingredients to tables, arranging herbs and spices with care, while senior cooks oversee the final touches on steaming pots. Bread is sliced with deliberate slowness, meats arranged with an eye for symmetry, and sauces ladled with precision. Even the act of tasting small, careful nibbles to check seasoning becomes a ritualized motion, deliberate and unhurried. The kitchen staff moves in coordinated patterns, each step measured, each gesture purposeful, creating a world that is orderly, predictable, and reassuringly calm. Outside, through narrow windows, the garden provides a visual respite. Green shoots of parsley, rosemary, and thyme sway slightly in a gentle breeze, a subtle reminder of the natural rhythms beyond the kitchen walls. Imagine watching a servant pluck fresh herbs, the leaves brushing lightly against their fingertips, releasing faint, fragrant clouds that drift through the room. These moments, small as they may seem, punctuate the day with sensory richness, and you, as an observer, are invited to follow the pattern of sights, smells, and textures in a slow, contemplative dance. As the day progresses, there is a sense of enduring continuity. The work is steady, the motions repetitive, but there's an underlying comfort in this repetition. You can notice the ebb and flow of tasks, stirring, chopping, carrying, arranging, each action merging into the next. The kitchen, though bustling, is calm and purposeful, its activities unfolding in a natural, soothing rhythm. In these details, steam rising from a simmering pot, the gentle clink of utensils, the soft murmur of conversation, there's a quiet magic. They are reminders that even in a world centuries removed from our own, order, diligence, and care shape the course of daily life. And in observing them, we can find a mirrored sense of calm in our present moments. By dwelling in this part of the day, you can let your mind slow along with the motions around you. The kitchen is not a place of urgency or drama, but of gentle perseverance. The sensory richness, the repeated gestures, the measured pacing, all of these invite relaxation. And so, you may feel yourself sinking further into a restful state, carried by the slow, comforting rhythm of Tudor daily life, ready to continue observing as the day unfolds further in our next exploration. As the afternoon drifts gently into the later hours, the Tudor kitchen carries on with a measured, unhurried cadence that has defined the day. The warmth from the fires now spreads evenly across the stone floor, softening the chill of earlier hours. Steam continues to rise from cauldrons, mingling with the faint scent of baked bread and roasting meats, while the earthy aroma of freshly chopped vegetables and herbs drifts lazily through the air. Each motion of the servants is deliberate and steady, contributing to a quiet harmony that fills the space, the rhythm of their lives unfolding with comforting regularity. At this stage of the day, the kitchen is alive with both activity and subtle reflection. Young apprentices pause to observe the senior cooks, who move with practiced ease, their hands tracing familiar paths over cutting boards, stirring pots, and arranging ingredients with meticulous care. The learning here is silent, immersive, almost meditative. Imagine yourself watching as a cook gently rolls dough for a pie, the flour dusting the tabletop in soft, pale clouds, or as another carefully tends a stew, adjusting the fire and stirring with patience. There's a sense of fluidity in these movements, a quiet poetry in the repeated gestures, a reassurance that even labor has its gentle, almost musical rhythm. The interactions between the kitchen staff are understated yet meaningful. A glance across the room may signal that a task is complete, a nod may indicate readiness to proceed, and a brief exchange of words is enough to convey instructions or offer advice. There's a sense of trust in these small communications, a shared understanding that every hand contributes to the larger tapestry of the kitchen's life. You might notice how the most experienced servants handle their roles with calm authority, guiding the less experienced with quiet patience, their movements deliberate, never rushed, allowing the young to follow and absorb the details of each process. Around the kitchen, preparations for the evening meal begin subtly. Vegetables are chopped and stored. Meats are set aside for roasting, and bread, now golden and fragrant, is arranged on trays to cool. The sensory environment is rich yet soothing. The gentle clatter of utensils, the occasional hiss of steam, the faint rustle of herbs being gathered or dried. Imagine leaning close to a tray of fresh bread, inhaling the comforting aroma, feeling the warmth emanating from the loaves, while the rhythmic activities around you continue like a quiet lullaby. These details, small as they may seem, anchor the day in a predictable and gentle pattern, encouraging the mind to settle and the body to relax. Even the challenges of Tudor kitchen life, lifting heavy sacks of flour, tending fires that require constant attention, or the occasional mishap with a pot or pan, are softened by the routine and repetition. Each obstacle is met with measured action, each problem solved calmly and methodically, reinforcing the sense of order that pervades the space. Imagine a cook pausing to adjust a simmering cauldron, or a servant carrying a basket of vegetables across the stone floor, their movements rhythmic and deliberate. These simple, repeated actions, though essential to the household's survival, also provide a comforting structure, a sense that the world is orderly and predictable, even amid the labor of daily life. As the afternoon wanes, light filters through narrow windows, casting long shadows that stretch across the kitchen floor. The contrast between light and shadow adds another layer of sensory richness, a visual reminder of the passage of time, gentle and gradual. You may notice how the steam from a pot catches the sunlight, creating fleeting patterns in the air, or how the dust motes float lazily in the warm glow. These subtle details encourage mindfulness, allowing your attention to drift gently, observing without hurry, absorbing without effort. By now, the kitchen hums with the quiet culmination of a day's labor. Pots are simmering steadily, bread is cooling, herbs are arranged for future use, and the staff moves with calm confidence. Each repeated motion, the stirring, chopping, carrying, arranging, creates a rhythm that is both soothing and hypnotic. Imagine yourself drawn into this cadence, the gentle pulse of daily life wrapping around you like a soft blanket. Here, in the midst of ordinary tasks, there's a quiet grandeur, an immersive sense of order and diligence, offering a gentle comfort as your mind begins to wander in harmony with the steady flow of Tudor kitchen life. In this final part of our daily immersion, you are invited to rest in the patterns, the aromas, the warmth, and the quiet diligence of the servants. The world outside may be far away, but here, in this space of steady activity, there's a sense of constancy and calm. The rhythm of chopping, stirring, carrying, and arranging acts almost like a slow, deliberate lullaby, inviting you to let go of tension, to breathe in the scents, the warmth, and the gentle sounds, and to allow your mind to drift into restful contemplation, gently carried by the unhurried pulse of the Tudor kitchen. As we transition from the rhythm of daily life to the stories of those who shaped it, allow your mind to settle gently into the narrative. In the world of Tudor kitchens, one figure stands quietly influential, though often unseen by history's broader lens: the master cook. This individual was entrusted not only with the preparation of meals, but with the orchestration of the entire culinary realm within a household. Their presence was subtle yet commanding, guiding the hands of apprentices, instructing servants, and ensuring that every pot, pan, and tray fulfilled its purpose with precision. Imagine yourself observing such a figure as they move calmly through the kitchen, their every gesture measured, deliberate, and infused with experience. A master cook's day began before dawn, with careful inspection of the fires, the ingredients, and the tools of the kitchen. Their movements were unhurried but purposeful. A tilt of the head, a glance at a simmering cauldron, or a gentle adjustment of a wooden spoon could convey lessons and expectations to all who worked under their guidance. This was a person whose knowledge was both practical and deeply intuitive, attuned to the subtleties of flavor, the timing of each preparation, and the delicate balance of heat and seasoning. Watching them, one notices not just the mastery of cooking, but the orchestration of a quiet ballet, where every motion has a place and every gesture carries meaning. The role of the master cook extended beyond mere sustenance. Meals prepared under their watch were symbols of status, hospitality, and domestic order. They selected ingredients with care, often consulting records of past menus, noting seasonal availability, and attending to the intricate hierarchy of the household's dining. A Tudor manor relied on these carefully managed routines to sustain not only physical nourishment, but social and cultural proprieties. Imagine the subtle satisfaction as a well-prepared meal is presented, the colors, aromas, and textures arranged thoughtfully, each dish a testament to meticulous planning, patience, and foresight. Within the kitchen, apprentices and lower-ranking servants observed and learned under the master cook's careful supervision. Tasks that seemed mundane, a ladle moved with steady hands, dough kneaded rhythmically, or vegetables chopped with gentle precision, were all moments of instruction, teaching the art of timing, patience, and subtlety. The master cook rarely raised their voice. Guidance was often delivered through example, through repetition, and through small, careful corrections that invited attention without urgency. The quiet authority of such a figure created a calm, steady environment where learning unfolded naturally and mistakes were absorbed into the larger flow of the day rather than punished harshly. It is important to remember that life in a Tudor kitchen was not without challenges, and even a master cook faced pressures and responsibilities that required constant attention. Supplies could be delayed, fires might fluctuate unpredictably, and the demands of the household could shift suddenly with the arrival of guests or the planning of feasts. Yet, even these stresses were managed with calm deliberation. The master cook's expertise lay not only in culinary skill, but in the ability to maintain order and composure, to transform potential chaos into a rhythm of careful, measured activity. Imagine, for a moment, the steadiness required to oversee dozens of tasks simultaneously, the quiet confidence needed to ensure that all proceeds smoothly, all without raising the level of urgency or sound in the kitchen. Beyond their technical skills, master cooks often held knowledge that bridged history and culture. Recipes passed down through generations, methods adapted from distant lands, and techniques refined over decades all contributed to a living repository of domestic wisdom. The kitchen was thus both a workshop and a library, a place where practical knowledge intersected with tradition. Imagine the calm authority with which a master cook selects a spice, stirs a simmering stew, or instructs an apprentice. All gestures performed in deliberate sequence, carrying centuries of accumulated practice and careful attention. As we focus on this figure, the master cook becomes more than a historical character. They're a lens through which we can observe the broader rhythm of Tudor life. Their influence extended through the ordinary and extraordinary alike, shaping the day-to-day experiences of those around them, while sustaining the household's larger social and cultural needs. Observing such a life, even from a distance, is a gentle invitation to notice the interplay of order, routine, and subtle mastery. A quiet, calming reflection on human diligence, patience, and the understated elegance of work performed with care and attention. As the day continues to unfold in the Tudor kitchen, our focus gently shifts to a specific, notable figure who left a quiet yet lasting mark on culinary life: the legendary cook Thomas Dawson. Though not widely known outside historical culinary circles, Dawson's work exemplifies the meticulous attention and subtle artistry that defined high-level Tudor kitchen practice. Imagine yourself observing him as he moves gracefully between cauldrons and chopping boards, the flicker of firelight highlighting the careful folds of his attire, his eyes steady and attentive to every simmer, stir, and slice. Dawson's role extended beyond preparing ordinary meals. He was responsible for creating menus that balanced the tastes of the household, the availability of ingredients, and the ceremonial expectations of Tudor dining. Each dish was thoughtfully composed, a blend of texture, flavor, and visual presentation, often requiring hours of careful preparation. Imagine him checking the consistency of a thick pottage, turning vegetables with precise care, or sprinkling dried herbs across a platter of roasted meat. All done with a gentle, steady hand that imparted confidence and calm to those around him. In addition to orchestrating the work of servants and apprentices, Dawson documented recipes in ways that preserved knowledge for generations. These writings were methodical and detailed, outlining not only ingredients and techniques, but also the proper timing and sequence for preparing complex dishes. Imagine the patience and precision required to record such information in an era when every detail mattered, and mistakes could easily disrupt the household's delicate rhythm. His meticulous records allowed the kitchen to function smoothly, even when he was absent, ensuring continuity, predictability, and a quiet sense of order. The master cook's influence extended beyond the culinary arts, touching social and ceremonial life within the household. For instance, when guests arrived for feasts, it was the cook's responsibility to arrange courses in an order that reflected hierarchy, taste, and occasion. Each tray, bowl, and platter was carefully positioned, ingredients selected for both flavor and symbolic meaning. Imagine the quiet satisfaction of observing a perfectly arranged table, the warm hues of roasted meats and golden pastries, garnished with fresh herbs and fruits, all harmonized under the watchful eye of a single, steady orchestrator. Yet life in a Tudor kitchen was never without practical challenges. Supplies could arrive late, ovens required constant attention, and fires demanded vigilance. Thomas Dawson's calm approach was essential in these moments. Picture him gently adjusting a hearth, stirring a stew with patience, or directing a younger apprentice with a quiet nod rather than a raised voice. Even amidst these pressures, the atmosphere remained steady, reassuring, and measured. The kitchen was a world governed by rhythm, and Dawson's deliberate actions maintained a sense of continuity and calm. Beyond the practical and ceremonial, Dawson's life reminds us of the quiet artistry embedded in routine. The kitchen, often considered a place of labor rather than creativity, was in his hands a space of subtle elegance. Each step, measuring flour, kneading dough, arranging herbs, was performed with intention and attention. Imagine standing in the kitchen and observing these motions, the calm efficiency, the rhythm of preparation, and the gentle flow of activity that enveloped every participant. The repetitive, measured actions themselves become soothing, creating a tranquil soundscape of clinking utensils, rustling herbs, and simmering pots. Thomas Dawson's legacy is also one of teaching. Apprentices learned not merely by instruction, but by immersion, absorbing the tempo, precision, and sensibilities of skilled practice. His calm authority, methodical guidance, and the serene order he maintained allowed the kitchen to operate smoothly, instilling a sense of confidence, patience, and focus in those who worked under him. Imagine how each day unfolded under his watchful yet gentle presence, each moment contributing to a quiet, structured rhythm that made even the busiest kitchen feel orderly and measured. By considering the life and work of Thomas Dawson, we gain insight into how the Tudor kitchen functioned not only as a space of sustenance, but as a carefully maintained environment where skill, patience, and quiet authority intersected. Observing his daily actions invites you to appreciate the subtle artistry of routine, the calming repetition of thoughtful labor, and the enduring influence of a figure whose diligence shaped the rhythm of daily life for all around him. In dwelling on these patterns, you may feel your own mind align with the steady pulse of the kitchen, drifting gently in time with the measured motions of the past. As the afternoon stretches toward evening, the Tudor kitchen continues to hum with a quiet, steady rhythm, and our attention returns to Thomas Dawson, whose work provides a lens through which we can appreciate the intricate ballet of Tudor culinary life. Dawson's expertise extended beyond the mechanics of cooking. He was a steward of flavor, timing, and tradition, weaving together the practical and the ceremonial with calm, deliberate movements. Imagine yourself observing him from across the kitchen, noting the precision with which he slices vegetables, the gentle fold of dough under his hands, and the careful placement of herbs atop simmering dishes. Each gesture carries both purpose and rhythm, a comforting symmetry in a space that thrives on order and routine. Dawson's influence reached every corner of the kitchen. He knew the strengths and limitations of each apprentice and servant, quietly adjusting tasks to suit individual skills. One might carefully measure a handful of dried herbs, while another stirs a pottage with steady persistence. Dawson observes, offering silent guidance through a tilt of the head or the faintest nod, ensuring the flow of activity remains uninterrupted. Imagine how these subtle cues create an atmosphere of quiet collaboration, where even mistakes are absorbed into the rhythm of the day rather than causing disruption. The measured pace allows for concentration, reflection, and calm immersion in each task. In addition to overseeing daily routines, Dawson was responsible for managing the procurement and storage of ingredients. Grain, flour, spices, and dried herbs had to be accounted for, carefully stored, and rotated to ensure freshness. Imagine the tactile experience of this work: the weight of sacks of flour, the smooth texture of polished wooden bowls, the faint aroma of dried herbs mingling with the scent of roasting meat. Each small, repeated action contributes to the overall order of the kitchen, reinforcing a sense of stability and continuity that is both soothing and reassuring. Feasts, while rare, offered a particular opportunity to witness Dawson's mastery at its most deliberate and meticulous. Preparing multiple courses for distinguished guests required careful timing, coordination, and foresight. Dishes had to be ready in sequence, each maintaining the correct temperature and appearance. Imagine the calm authority with which Dawson oversees these preparations, adjusting fires, checking sauces, and arranging dishes with meticulous care. Even amidst the complexity, there is no rush, no sudden movement. Only the steady flow of a practiced hand guiding every detail, creating an environment of measured diligence. Apprentices continued to learn in this environment, absorbing knowledge as much by observation as by instruction. They watched Dawson's hands and body, noting the subtle shifts in posture, the careful rotation of a stirring spoon, the precise placement of ingredients on a tray. Through repetition, patience, and immersion, these young learners internalized the rhythms of the kitchen. Imagine yourself following these motions in thought, the repetitive gestures forming a soothing cadence that mirrors the gentle pulse of daily life. Even the smallest actions, kneading bread, stirring a pottage, or arranging a handful of herbs, become part of a larger, calm symphony of motion. Dawson's contributions also extended to recipe writing, a task that demanded both precision and foresight. He recorded instructions for the preparation of dishes, including timing, sequence, and seasoning, ensuring that knowledge could be passed to future generations of kitchen staff. Imagine the quiet concentration required to inscribe these details by hand, each letter and measurement contributing to the continuity and stability of kitchen life. The act of documentation itself becomes a meditation, a deliberate, measured contribution to a system of calm order that spans both space and time. Through the lens of Thomas Dawson's life and work, we gain an intimate understanding of the structure and rhythm of Tudor kitchens. Here, the ordinary acts of chopping, stirring, and arranging are elevated through repetition, precision, and attentive care. There is a gentle artistry embedded in every motion, a reassuring constancy in each gesture. By dwelling in these patterns, observing the interplay of sound, smell, and movement, we can allow our own minds to slow, to synchronize with the calm pulse of history, and to find comfort in the quiet diligence of a life devoted to care, order, and subtle mastery. As we step away from the routines and figures of daily kitchen life, we now explore the quieter mysteries and cultural curiosities that inhabit the Tudor kitchen. Imagine yourself standing in a shadowed corner, observing not only the people at work, but the objects and practices that hint at a world of tradition, ritual, and subtle intrigue. Tudor kitchens, while outwardly functional, were filled with items whose purposes, origins, and uses often carried hidden layers of meaning. An overlooked spice jar, a peculiar utensil, or an ornate dish could reveal stories of trade, superstition, or culinary innovation. Archaeological excavations of Tudor manors and kitchens provide glimpses into these hidden aspects of daily life. Imagine peering into a storage cupboard, discovering iron cooking implements carefully blackened with use, ceramic bowls bearing the faint marks of repeated stirring, and remnants of clay jars that once held grains or preserved fruits. Each object tells a story, quietly preserving the traces of hands that touched it, the smells it once held, and the rituals it participated in. Scholars can trace patterns of trade from distant lands through the presence of exotic spices, shells, and metals, all pointing to the subtle interconnections of the Tudor world. Some utensils and kitchen implements appear ordinary at first glance, but were imbued with cultural significance. For example, a long-handled ladle, often overlooked, was designed not only for practical stirring, but also to maintain distance from the intense heat of a fire. A small reflection of the understanding of material and safety in domestic spaces. Imagine the skill required to craft such an item, the knowledge of metallurgy, and the centuries of accumulated practice that informed its design. Even simple objects, through repeated use and careful construction, carry with them a quiet, enduring wisdom. Spices offer another layer of mystery and culture in the Tudor kitchen. Pepper, cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg were treasured, often more valuable than gold, and their presence reveals the extent of trade networks that connected England to distant lands. Imagine the sensory experience of handling these rare ingredients. The pungent aroma of peppercorns, the warm, sweet scent of cinnamon, or the sharp, slightly bitter tang of cloves. Each spice was carefully measured and added, not only for flavor, but to signify status, knowledge, and sophistication in the preparation of food. Their use carried both practical and symbolic meaning, quietly communicating wealth and worldly awareness without a single word. Beyond utensils and ingredients, the layout and structure of the Tudor kitchen itself holds subtle mysteries. Kitchens were divided into zones for specific activities: roasting, boiling, baking, and preparation, each carefully organized to maximize efficiency. Imagine walking through such a space, noticing how the design of the room guides movement, how the placement of the hearth, tables, and storage areas facilitates the rhythm of work, and how even the placement of windows was considered to manage light, heat, and ventilation. Every architectural choice reflects centuries of accumulated knowledge and an understanding of both practicality and subtle elegance. Cultural practices and culinary traditions further enrich this layer of mystery. Recipes often combine flavors in ways that may seem unusual to modern palates. Sour fruits with roasted meats, sweetened pottages, or spiced breads. These combinations were guided by a mixture of taste, tradition, and belief, reflecting the Tudor understanding of health, nutrition, and even cosmology. Imagine the careful, almost ritualized process of preparing these dishes. each step carrying not only practical importance, but also the weight of custom and expectation. The kitchen becomes a space where history, culture, and sensory experience intersect in calm, deliberate harmony. In exploring these mysteries, it is important to note that not every detail is fully understood today. Some utensils, ingredients, and methods remain enigmatic. Their precise use is a matter of conjecture, informed by fragments of written records, surviving objects, and careful archaeological study. Imagine handling a small iron implement whose purpose is uncertain, or glimpsing a recipe whose instructions are cryptic, leaving modern observers to wonder how it was executed centuries ago. There's a quiet fascination in these gaps, a reminder that history is not only what is recorded, but also what persists silently in objects, scents, and patterns of movement. By dwelling in this space of quiet curiosity, we are invited to observe the intersection of the tangible and the enigmatic. The steady rhythms of daily work continue, but our attention is drawn to subtler stories. The material culture of the kitchen, the layers of trade and tradition, the faint echoes of rituals long past. Imagine yourself moving gently among these objects, noticing the textures of clay, wood, and iron, inhaling the residual scents of spices, and feeling the subtle weight of history in every carefully crafted implement. In doing so, you participate in a calm, contemplative journey, one that merges sensory immersion with intellectual curiosity, inviting your mind to drift softly alongside the mysteries of the Tudor kitchen. As we continue our exploration of the quieter mysteries of Tudor kitchens, it is worth turning our attention to the unique cultural practices and curious artifacts that filled these spaces. Imagine yourself wandering slowly among the wooden tables, stone floors, and open hearths, noticing the small but telling details that reveal the ingenuity, traditions, and habits of those who worked here centuries ago. Every utensil, jar, and implement carries a subtle story, and observing them allows a gentle connection with the lives of people long past. Archaeological finds from Tudor sites often reveal the unassuming complexity of these kitchens. Fragments of ceramic plates and bowls, slightly chipped yet carefully crafted, tell of repeated use and the practical realities of domestic life. Iron hooks, ladles, and skewers, blackened from years of fire, speak to both functionality and adaptation. Imagine holding a small, rusted iron implement in your mind's eye. Its shape simple, but carefully considered, the edges worn smooth by hands that perform the same tasks day after day. Each object is a quiet testament to skill, endurance, and routine, and even the most ordinary implement can spark fascination when seen in its historical context. Some of the most intriguing discoveries relate to the organization and storage of ingredients. Wooden cupboards, clay jars, and wicker baskets were carefully arranged to maximize accessibility and maintain freshness. Herbs were tied and hung from beams, often in patterns that suggested both practicality and aesthetic consideration. Imagine the faint aroma of dried rosemary or thyme wafting through the air, mingling with the earthy scent of root vegetables and the occasional sweet note from a baking pie. These sensory elements were integral to the experience of kitchen life, providing both function and a subtle, comforting rhythm. Exotic spices also carried hidden layers of cultural and social meaning. Pepper, cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon were imported from distant lands, their value reflecting both wealth and access to global trade networks. Imagine the anticipation of unsealing a small container of peppercorns or cinnamon sticks, feeling the weight of these rare commodities in your hands, and inhaling their pungent, fragrant aroma. Their careful measurement into dishes was not only a culinary choice, but also a quiet indicator of sophistication, knowledge, and status within the household. The judicious use of these spices reflects a deliberate rhythm of taste, a careful balance between flavor, symbolism, and tradition. Kitchens were also spaces of hidden ingenuity. Tools and devices were designed for efficiency, safety, and sometimes subtle amusement. Long-handled spoons, perforated skimmers, and specialized chopping implements reveal an understanding of material, temperature, and ergonomics that might go unnoticed today. Imagine an apprentice carefully lifting a skimmer from a simmering pot, learning the subtle technique required to remove ingredients without spilling or scorching. These small, precise actions were repeated countless times, forming the underlying rhythm of kitchen work and providing the observer with a sense of calm continuity. Rituals and customs also infused kitchen life with subtle cultural meaning. Certain ingredients were believed to aid health or preserve longevity, while specific cooking techniques were employed for both practical and symbolic purposes. Imagine a cook slowly stirring a pottage infused with herbs chosen not only for flavor, but for their medicinal qualities, or carefully laying out a tray of fruit to signify seasonal abundance. Each act, while ordinary in appearance, carried layers of tradition, knowledge, and quiet significance, inviting a calm reflection on the interplay between function, belief, and sensory experience. The act of observation itself becomes a gentle exercise in mindfulness. Watching the interplay of light, shadow, steam, and motion allows the mind to settle alongside the measured rhythm of kitchen life. Imagine tracing the curling wisps of steam rising from a cauldron, noting how the sunlight filters through wooden beams and illuminates dust motes floating lazily in the warm air. Every small detail, the texture of a wooden table, the glint of iron tools, the subtle fragrance of spices, creates a layered sensory landscape, one that encourages quiet immersion, reflection, and, eventually, a gentle drift toward relaxation. In these moments, the Tudor kitchen transforms from a mere workspace into a repository of subtle mysteries, sensory experiences, and cultural echoes. By attending to the objects, aromas, and rhythms of this environment, we connect not only with the practical realities of history, but also with the quiet artistry embedded in routine, the interplay of tradition and innovation, and the soft, comforting cadence of lives lived with care, patience, and mindful attention. Here, in the gentle unfolding of ordinary actions, history becomes a lullaby, inviting your mind to wander softly alongside the rhythms of centuries past. As the day drifts toward evening, the Tudor kitchen takes on a different kind of calm, one infused with subtle cultural patterns and quiet ingenuity. Here, the objects, arrangements, and small rituals of daily life reveal themselves as layers of meaning, waiting to be noticed by those who pause and observe. Imagine standing in a quiet corner, watching steam curl from a simmering pot, dust motes dancing in the sunlight filtering through wooden beams, and the faint aroma of herbs, bread, and roasting meat mingling in the air. In this gentle ambience, even the smallest details offer insight into the rhythm and culture of a bygone era. One of the enduring fascinations of Tudor kitchens lies in the evidence of improvisation and adaptation. Archaeological studies reveal that utensils, pots, and storage vessels were often repurposed or modified to suit the needs of the moment. A ladle might bear small holes, allowing liquids to drain slowly, or a wooden spoon might be worn smooth, its handle perfectly contoured by repeated use. Imagine an apprentice selecting tools for a task, the seasoned surfaces of these objects conveying the quiet wisdom of countless hands before them. Every mark, dent, and worn edge hints at the persistent, gentle repetition that shaped daily work. The arrangement of ingredients and the subtle choreography of preparation were equally remarkable. Jars of preserved fruits, dried herbs, and carefully stacked vegetables were often organized with both practical and aesthetic considerations in mind. Imagine the calm satisfaction of observing a tray of meticulously arranged root vegetables, their muted tones contrasted by the bright greens of fresh herbs, all set upon a worn wooden table. Such arrangements were not merely functional. They reflected an understanding of order, rhythm, and harmony, qualities that permeated the space and encouraged both efficiency and quiet contemplation. Cultural beliefs and subtle rituals further enriched kitchen life. Certain herbs were valued for their supposed health benefits, while specific combinations of ingredients were thought to influence well-being or mood. Imagine a cook methodically adding sprigs of rosemary and thyme to a pot, aware not only of the flavor, but of centuries of tradition and the gentle guidance of customary wisdom. Even routine actions, repeated day after day, were imbued with meaning, linking the physical act of cooking with broader social, cultural, and medicinal practices. Trade and travel brought distant influences into the kitchen. Exotic spices, imported from faraway lands, were used sparingly yet deliberately, reflecting both status and taste. Pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg carried stories of ships, markets, and distant cultures. Imagine the careful selection of these spices, the deliberate sprinkling into dishes to enhance flavor and display refinement. Their presence connected the domestic kitchen to a wider world, bridging geography, economy, and culture in ways subtle enough to be absorbed almost unconsciously by the apprentices and servants who handled them daily. Lighting, architecture, and spatial design also shaped experience in quiet ways. Sunlight through narrow windows illuminated working surfaces and cast long shadows, accentuating the textures of wood, stone, and metal. Hearths provided both heat and a central focus, anchoring the kitchen's rhythm. Imagine tracing the flow of movement through the space. An apprentice carrying a basket of vegetables, the soft clatter of utensils against wooden tables, and the occasional hiss of a pot over the fire. Each sound, shadow, and movement contributes to a layered sensory environment that is simultaneously functional and soothing. Finally, the mysteries of objects whose purpose has been partially lost to time add an element of gentle curiosity. Small iron implements, enigmatic containers, or partially legible recipe notes invite speculation and quiet wonder. Imagine holding a small implement in your mind, wondering about its precise use while appreciating the care and intention embedded in its design. These fragments of history allow us to connect with the past in a calm, reflective way, observing the ordinary transformed into something quietly extraordinary. By attending to the subtle rhythms, sensory details, and enduring mysteries of the Tudor kitchen, we gain a deeper appreciation for the culture, ingenuity, and lived experience of the past. Each object, motion, and aroma contributes to a tranquil tapestry, inviting the mind to slow, observe, and drift gently alongside centuries of quiet human diligence. In this space, history is not only seen or heard. It is felt, absorbed, and gently carried into the stillness of contemplation, a soft and enduring echo of lives lived with care and thoughtful attention. As the kitchen hums with steady, familiar rhythms, it is worth stepping back to observe the contrast between the labor within these walls and the lives of those for whom the food was prepared. In Tudor households, social hierarchy was tightly woven into every aspect of daily life, and the experiences of servants and cooks were framed by the routines and expectations of the elite. Imagine yourself quietly walking through the stone corridors of a manor, the scent of roasting meats and fresh bread guiding your way toward the spaces where the household's higher-ranking members move with calm precision, enjoying comforts that are worlds apart from the heat and effort of the kitchen. In the great hall, the family and honored guests conduct their day in measured leisure. The hall is often cool, spacious, and orderly, with polished wooden tables, high-backed chairs, and tapestries that soften sound and warm the space. Imagine the faint sunlight filtering through narrow windows, casting gentle patterns across the floor. Here, time flows differently than in the kitchen. Meals arrive in sequence. Attendants perform tasks unobtrusively, and conversation drifts softly, punctuated by the subtle clink of utensils. This contrast is not dramatic, but gentle, a reflection of structure, privilege, and the carefully maintained rhythm of social life. Meals themselves illustrate the distinctions in daily experience. While kitchen staff stir, chop, and tend fires, the elite partake in carefully arranged courses, each designed to satisfy taste and signal status. Imagine a platter of roasted meats, garnished with fresh herbs, arranged beside sweet pastries, and accompanied by stewed fruits, all presented with deliberate attention to color, symmetry, and variety. The sensory experience for those seated in the hall is soothing and controlled. The aromas, textures, and flavors all harmonize to reflect order and refinement. In contrast, the kitchen is alive with the tactile, earthy sensations of preparation, the warmth of fires, and the constant rhythm of work. Even within the household hierarchy, subtle routines create gentle predictability. Attendants move quietly, refilling vessels of water or ale, adjusting the seating, or presenting a small dish to a guest. Imagine the soft murmur of polite conversation, the occasional laughter, and the measured pace of dining, all unfolding in an environment carefully curated for comfort and ease. These contrasts with the kitchen highlight the interdependence of labor and leisure, work and rest, while offering a calming perspective on the rhythms of privilege and servitude in Tudor society. The household's elite also engage in pastimes and rituals that reflect status and culture. Reading, embroidery, music, and quiet conversation are common, each activity undertaken with deliberate calm. Imagine a lady of the manor tracing the stitches of a delicate pattern, the sunlight casting warm light across her work, while a gentleman flips the pages of a ledger or a manuscript, noting details of estate management. These seemingly simple actions are imbued with a sense of continuity and order, reflecting a life structured to balance productivity, leisure, and social expectation. Interestingly, the diet and food culture of the elite also reveals attention to health, flavor, and variety. Meals were often composed with a careful understanding of seasonal availability, regional trade, and culinary knowledge passed down through generations. Imagine the thoughtful selection of ingredients for a midday feast. Fresh bread, roasted meats, fruits preserved with honey, and delicate pastries filled with sweetened nuts or dried fruits. Even the act of consuming these foods was conducted in measured, calm portions, reinforcing the rhythm and tranquility of daily life. Contrasts extend beyond food to the spaces themselves. The kitchen is warm, bustling, and tactile, filled with the aroma of cooking, the touch of raw ingredients, and the occasional hiss of boiling liquids. The hall, by comparison, is cooler, quieter, and more spacious, offering a sensory environment dominated by sight, soft sound, and gentle texture. Imagine walking between these two spaces, noticing the shift in temperature, in smell, in sound, and in pace. This contrast serves as a subtle reminder of the broader societal structure, illustrating how work, privilege, and daily rhythm interweave to create a calm, layered experience of Tudor domestic life. By observing these contrasts, we gain a nuanced understanding of how social hierarchy, domestic labor, and cultural expectations shaped everyday life. The kitchen and hall exist in a delicate balance, each space with its own rhythm and sensory character, each contributing to the overall order and harmony of the household. Imagine yourself moving gently through these spaces, absorbing the sights, smells, and sounds, and noticing how the contrasting experiences create a soothing, reflective sense of rhythm that encourages quiet contemplation and a gentle drift toward relaxation. As the day continues, the rhythms of the elite's domestic life offer a subtle counterpoint to the energetic pulse of the kitchen. While cooks and apprentices manage fires, measure ingredients, and stir pots with steady hands, the higher-ranking members of the household move through the manor with calm precision, each action deliberate and measured. Imagine yourself walking through long, cool corridors, the polished floors reflecting dappled sunlight streaming through narrow windows, and soft echoes of conversation or laughter gently reaching your ears. Here, the environment is designed to soothe and sustain, contrasting with the tactile intensity of the kitchen, yet harmoniously connected through shared daily routines. Meals for the elite were not merely about nourishment. They were carefully orchestrated experiences. Platters of roasted meats, fresh herbs, and delicate pastries arrived in sequence, each dish chosen for flavor, texture, and visual appeal. Imagine the satisfaction of observing such a meal unfold. The rich aroma of roasting meat blending with the sweet scent of baked goods, the colors and shapes of each dish arranged with aesthetic consideration, and the gentle sounds of utensils against polished plates completing the sensory tableau. In this controlled environment, food is both sustenance and subtle expression of status, refinement, and cultural knowledge. Attendants moved silently and unobtrusively, anticipating needs without drawing attention. A goblet of water is refilled with care. A small dish of fruit is presented at the proper moment, or a folded napkin is adjusted with a delicate touch. Imagine the rhythm of these actions, each repeated in precise sequence, each contributing to the calm, structured flow of the dining experience. There is no rush, no urgency, only a steady tempo, a soft, reassuring pulse that mirrors the underlying order of the household. Daily leisure was equally structured yet calm. Gentle music, embroidery, reading, and quiet conversation were common pursuits for the elite, each providing reflection, relaxation, and connection. Imagine a gentleman perusing a ledger or manuscript, a lady tracing careful stitches in an intricate embroidery, both bathed in warm sunlight, filtering through tall windows. Their movements are deliberate, unhurried, and steeped in focus, contributing to a tranquil domestic rhythm that complements the more active environment of the kitchen. Even the sensory experiences of the elite were curated. The textures of polished wood, smooth fabrics, and delicate ceramics contrast with the warmth and earthy scents of the kitchen. Imagine walking across a polished floor, feeling the cool smoothness beneath your feet, or lifting a porcelain cup to sip a fragrant beverage. The sights, sounds, and tactile qualities of the hall, parlor, or private chambers offer a gentle, calming immersion that contrasts with the sensory richness of kitchen labor. Yet together they form a cohesive, rhythmic experience of Tudor domestic life. The preparation of large meals or feasts reveals another layer of interplay between kitchen labor and elite experience. The timing of dishes, the careful arrangement of food, and the subtle choreography of servants all rely on the quiet authority and expertise of the master cook. Imagine the gentle tension of anticipation as dishes move from hearth to table, the warmth of the food blending with the serene environment of the hall, and the quiet satisfaction of a meal presented with deliberate care. The entire household functions as a single, coordinated organism, where effort and leisure coexist in an orchestrated balance. Observation of these contrasting spaces also provides insight into the social structure and subtle rituals that underpin Tudor life. While the kitchen is tactile, aromatic, and bustling with action, the spaces inhabited by the elite are composed, curated, and reflective. Each environment offers distinct rhythms, yet both are necessary to sustain the household's function and social expectations. Imagine moving gently between them, noting the contrast in temperature, sound, and sensory experience, and appreciating how these differences create a layered, harmonious domestic life. By attending to these contrasts, we begin to perceive the Tudor household as an interconnected system, where work, privilege, and culture intersect to create calm, measured rhythms. The energy of the kitchen complements the tranquility of the hall. The diligence of apprentices mirrors the poise of the elite, and together they form a dynamic yet soothing tableau. Observing these interactions invites your mind to slow, align with the gentle cadence of daily life, and drift with the quiet harmony of history. As evening gently falls, the interplay between the bustling kitchen and the composed spaces of the elite continues to reveal itself in subtle, calming ways. Imagine yourself moving quietly through the manor, the soft glow of candlelight beginning to fill the hall, complementing the fading sunlight streaming through high windows. Shadows stretch across polished wood floors, reflecting the gentle activity of household members and the measured rhythm of servants performing their duties. In this space, time feels expansive, slow, and deliberately ordered, a contrast to the energetic pulse of the kitchen, yet harmoniously connected through the shared daily structure of Tudor life. Evening meals were a time of both sustenance and ceremony, yet the atmosphere remained controlled and serene. Trays of food arrived sequentially, each dish carefully prepared to balance flavor, appearance, and timing. Imagine a platter of roasted fowl, its golden skin glistening under the soft light, accompanied by a medley of seasoned root vegetables and delicate pastries. The aromas mix gently with the faint scent of beeswax from polished wooden surfaces, creating a layered sensory environment that is simultaneously rich and soothing. Every action, from lifting a plate to slicing a portion, is performed with measured care, reinforcing the calm cadence of the household. Household hierarchy continued to shape the evening, though in ways that emphasized order rather than tension. Servants moved silently, refilling goblets of water or ale, placing small dishes of fruit, and adjusting seating with minimal disturbance. Imagine the subtle choreography of these movements, each repeated over years of practice, producing a rhythm that is almost imperceptible yet entirely essential to the smooth functioning of the space. This quiet attentiveness allows the elite to experience comfort, continuity, and gentle engagement with their environment. Leisure activities after the meal reflected the cultivated, composed life of the upper household. Reading, embroidery, music, and gentle conversation were standard pastimes, each undertaken with focus and care. Imagine a lady tracing stitches along an intricate pattern of silk and linen, or a gentleman studying a ledger or manuscript, the soft rustle of pages blending with the distant sound of footsteps on polished floors. Even small gestures, the careful lifting of a cup, the rearrangement of a chair, the adjustment of a folded napkin, contribute to a composed, predictable rhythm that permeates the evening, creating a tranquil environment conducive to relaxation and contemplation. The contrast between these spaces and the kitchen remains ever present, yet the two are interdependent. The warmth, aroma, and activity of the kitchen flow unobtrusively into the hall, infusing the evening with a subtle vitality. Imagine the gentle hiss of pots being moved, the faint smell of baked bread carried by a draft, or the soft clink of utensils as dishes are cleared. Sensory echoes that remind the household of the labor supporting their comfort, yet without disturbing the calm elegance of the elite environment. In this interplay, a quiet harmony emerges, bridging energy and serenity, labor and leisure. Even within the hall, the arrangement of objects reflects care, attention, and subtle artistry. Tables are polished and arranged, chairs positioned for accessibility and comfort, candles placed to maximize gentle illumination, and tapestries hung to soften sound and add warmth. Imagine observing the precise placement of a dish, the thoughtful balance of light across the room, or the way sound carries softly in the space. These details, though understated, create a sensory environment that is both aesthetically pleasing and quietly reassuring, offering a sense of stability and calm that mirrors the rhythm of daily life. The evening concludes with reflection, contemplation, and a transition toward rest. Household members gradually withdraw to private chambers, the soft glow of candlelight guiding them, while servants complete their final tasks, ensuring that everything is in order for the following day. Imagine yourself moving through this scene, observing the gentle retreat of activity, the fading warmth of fires, and the calm quiet of a household settling into evening stillness. In these final moments, the contrast between kitchen labor and elite leisure becomes a gentle lesson in rhythm, balance, and measured attention, a reminder of how daily life, across all ranks and roles, contributes to a harmonious and comforting whole. By dwelling in these subtle contrasts and observing the interplay between activity and calm, labor and leisure, we gain a serene perspective on Tudor domestic life. Every motion, aroma, and sound forms part of a soft, layered tapestry, allowing the mind to slow, the body to relax, and the imagination to wander gently through a world structured by care, rhythm, and quiet attention. In this space, history becomes a lullaby, a gentle, continuous flow of patterns and experiences that can guide the mind toward rest, reflection, and eventually sleep. As the evening draws to a gentle close, We leave the bustling kitchens, the carefully orchestrated meals, and the quiet elegance of the Tudor household behind. Imagine yourself stepping slowly through the corridors, the faint aroma of herbs, baked bread, and roasted meats lingering softly in the air, a subtle echo of the day's labor and care. The warmth of fires, the measured movements of servants, and the serene presence of the elite create a lingering impression of harmony, structure, and deliberate calm. In these final moments, we are invited to reflect on the rhythm, attention, and quiet artistry of daily life, a world both distant and familiar, where every task, gesture, and aroma contributes to a steady, reassuring cadence. The Tudor kitchen, with its fires, tools, and fragrant ingredients, was more than a workspace. It was a stage for mastery, patience, and careful repetition. Apprentices learned not only the practical skills of cooking, but the subtle wisdom embedded in order, timing, and observation. The elite, in contrast, experienced meals and leisure that were composed, deliberate, and soothing, their surroundings carefully arranged to create calm and comfort. By observing both worlds, we perceive a layered tapestry of domestic life, where labor and privilege, work and rest, intertwine to form a gentle rhythm that sustained the household across centuries. Even the smallest details hold meaning. The worn edges of a wooden spoon, the placement of a jar of herbs, the soft murmur of conversation, or the distant hiss of a simmering pot. These elements create a sensory landscape that is at once tangible and contemplative, a world where history is felt through the quiet interplay of movement, scent, and sight. Imagine tracing the curve of a ladle, inhaling the faint aroma of cinnamon or rosemary, noticing the dust motes dancing in the sunlight. All small, almost imperceptible moments that invite your mind to slow, settle, and drift alongside the measured flow of the past. In the calm contrast between kitchen and hall, labor and leisure, preparation and reflection, we find a gentle reminder of continuity and care. Each rhythm, repeated over generations, forms a reassuring pattern, a soft cadence for both the body and the mind. By dwelling in these moments, observing the ordinary transformed into something quietly extraordinary, we allow ourselves to embrace the soothing qualities of routine, attention, and subtle artistry. History, in its unhurried flow, becomes a companion for rest, a guide to relaxation, and a gentle lullaby for the senses. Thank you for spending this time with me, the Sleepy Historian. If this kind of calm storytelling has helped you relax, feel free to like the video, subscribe if it truly brings you comfort, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from or what time it is. It's quietly comforting to imagine others, far and near, falling asleep to the same gentle stories. Dim the lights. Let the scents and whispers of the past settle around you, and drift into sleep, carried softly by the rhythms of history.